Good morning, brothers and sisters. Welcome back to the Church of Doom. If you are new here, my name is Landon Gus. Landon Father Doom Gus to you, actually. And today, we are continuing... Oops, wrong one. We're continuing our brainstorming of the Retched Tropics, which is a hex map that we have been coming up with all the ideas for here on stream. And then it's going to be published first to the church's Patreon, which you can see is linked in the pinned message. You can get that for $3 at the end of the month. And you can get the previous zine... it's way over there. The Traveling NPC, which is up on the Patreon right now, too. I saw Lord Lost is in here in the chat already, dropping our prayer candles to get things going. And he asked, so how is this brainstorming going to go? Are we thinking of ideas or making areas of the jungle? Just asking so I can get my brain into gear. You are not new to the church or our streams, but you are new to this particular one. So how this is working is we've already got an idea for the Retched Tropics. And the setting, the world that this is sort of taking place in. You can read more about that. I've got that all pinned in the description, but I'll let you just in on the lore real fast here because you asked, Lord Lost. But the Retched Tropic is a noxious jungle riddled with fuming volcanoes, sulfuric vents, and acidic bogs that shroud even the tallest mountains in a putrid yellow haze. It is also one of the last frontiers left unconquered by mankind before the Great Pilgrimage commenced. Many settlers, towns, and strongholds now cling to the jungle's coastlines for dear life. You can read more about the Great Pilgrimage in the lore of the Old World, which is also in the description. But that is my homebrew, well, one of my homebrew world settings. The Retched Tropics is also acrid. It is crawling with oozes, acid-spitting lizards, cannibalistic trolls, which we prepped last time, which was fun, and monstrous spawn of the dreaded black dragon, Facepocker. And the last thing is, it is bountiful. It is a fabled land amongst desperate mortals who come to this area to plunder its not yet discovered golden cities for enough tithing to bribe a god, or believing it is so remote that the Doomsday will never find them here. So that is sort of the vibe we want to keep in mind as we prep and brainstorm ideas. Now, today we've got 2 jungle hexes we can work on. Last time we did this hex, jeez, I still have not updated the map. Sorry, y'all. This is hex 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think it's hex 9, which has cannibal trolls living in it. It was called the Troll Cauldrons, and it was this section of jungle that had a bunch of sulfuric volcanic vents that had opened up from Facepocker's fury. Some elves had kind of come into this region to slay the dragon, and in that battle, the whole area had sort of erupted into a bunch of miniature sulfur volcanoes. So we prepped that. And then we also prepped hex, it's number 3, but it's actually number 4, a sulfuric bog called the Retched Quagmire, which was, it's like probably one of the worst places on the entire jungle peninsula to be at. It is just caught between this elemental volcano and hex 3 called the Ruptured Hive, which it's this big volcano that an ancient elemental beetle queen called the Mantle Empress is nesting in. Very kaiju sort of vibes there. And lava oozes out of the sides of this volcano. It kind of is like meant to be a big insect hive. I actually have the art for that here. So imagine just rivers of lava trickling down from this thing and a bunch of elemental beetles flying out of it. So the Retched Quagmire is caught between that to the north and then the Pocked Mountain to the south, which is the actual lair of Facepocker. So these two volcanoes have runoff and lava and sulfur that are coming down from them, creating just this inhospitable acidic bog that will literally melt canoes if you try and sail through or row through them without the proper lacquering applied to them. But that's not what we're prepping today. Today I thought we would take a look at the Tangled Ivory, which is the area most populated by dinosaurs on this peninsula, and it's also where our Ivory Knights from Hex 12, not 7, come down to hunt. I need to update this map before next time, because it's just confusing. But yeah, that's where the dinosaurs are at, and we're also going to prep, I think, our man-trap, mangrove, delta, whatever we're going to call it, over in this hex, which has had occult blood magics used to enrich the soil and make the plants grow bigger, and it was meant to have them produce more seeds and more spices and things like that for the druidic, the Sultan's druids over in hex, this one, this hex, that they sort of enchanted the forest, but now it has grown wild and has a taste for man flesh. So let me quickly drop a poll to see what y'all want to do first, and then I'll see who's hanging out with us in chat real quick. Let's prep, or let's start with the man-eating mangrove, needs a better name still, or the Tangled Ivory. Dinosaurs. Well, you guys know what it is. Boom, there we go. Start that poll. All right, we'll let that run for a sec. Now let's see who's hanging out in chat, shall we? What's up, Kenneth? Good morning, good morning. Kenneth, I don't know if you saw, because Start Playing is like updates you on emails, but I sent you the links to the campaigns you've been asking about. So you've got that. You can go join. I'm excited to play with you. What's up, Grimlord? Good to see you here. Eric09. Oh, hell yeah. Eric is one of my, he's one of my players on my Wednesday campaign, the Martyrs of the Ark. But unfortunately, his work schedule changed on him, and he had to step away. But it was a good time having him in the campaign while I was there. He played a Warforged sorcerer named 09, which was short for Oracle 9. And the vibe of his character, I might have already told you guys this, but he was a human warrior, sort of a paladin, that was brought aboard the Ark shortly after, or basically when the Great Pilgrimage commenced. So he was there in kind of the early years, and he fell in battle. And RoboCop style, his consciousness, his brain, what little was left of him was put inside this synthetic automaton body and held in stasis for many, many, many millennia, only to be awoken when a prophecy was going to come true about a horned demon that would destroy the Ark. And then he woke up. And he actually, they didn't fully stop this prophecy from coming true yet, because technically in the fight against Roronis, this horned demon, they lost. But 09, because it was the session we knew he was going to have to be stepping away, he detonated his soul engine and sort of caused this chain reaction of explosions that severely, severely injured Roronis and kind of bought the party some time. So, oh, Eric, appreciate that. A critical hit. Nice, dude. Appreciate that super chat, homie. That's very nice, yeah. Yeah, Eric was an awesome player. Really, really did a great job playing the role of a character sort of lost out of time. It was good to have you. And it's good to have you here, dude. Just saying hi to a couple other folks here. Samuel Smith, what's up, bro? How you doing? Mark, also one of my players in quite a few of my campaigns, actually. But good to see you, Mark. Let's see. Anything else in chat we want to address? Yeah, kind of sweet. Join in that campaign, play a Death Monk. That'd be sweet. And Lord Lost, I'd love to have you too. I've got seats open. My Thursday came. Oh my God. My Thursday campaign just filled up. All 6 players. Super psyched about that. Just had a new player join my Tuesday campaign, so that's got 5 out of 6 seats filled. Wednesday has 4 players. Yeah, 4 players now, because Hidden, who isn't in the chat right now, it doesn't look like, but he has been in the chat previously. They joined. I'm actually talking with them tonight about their player or their character. But Sunday, I've got some Sunday one-shots I'm looking to start up. Got a couple open seats there. And Lord Lost, if you join a Sunday game, then your first session's free to kind of give it a try. So, anyways, that's all the plug-in I'm going to do. Looks like I'm all caught up on chat. Why don't we jump into some brainstorming? What won here in our poll? The man-eating mangrove won. Sweet. All right, and that is hex 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Should be hex 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep. Yes, it is. All right. The name should probably come to us as we're brainstorming ideas here. But let's back up real quickly to the Violet Port, because there's some important context here. So the Violet Port, the name originally came from the fact that the Sultan sent some of his druids, like a cabal of his druids, to this jungle peninsula to establish a city, to plunder the jungle for its spices and its fruits and its flora and all that sort of stuff, fur traders, all that kind of stuff. And the port was so colorful. I need to actually probably include this in the lore somewhere. I don't think I specifically note this, but the spices were so colorful that the people just started calling it the Violet Port. But now, after the Great Pilgrimage happened, the stars fell from the heavens and obliterated a bunch of mortal cities, including one on this peninsula. The earthquakes that sort of happened in the wake of the Great Pilgrimage caused this Violet Port city, which was mostly made of like big bamboo scaffolded towers and things like that, to just collapse in on itself. And as the city was in ruin, Xenos fungal parasite that had fallen down with some of the stars during the Great Pilgrimage found its way over to the city, buried itself down deep beneath it, corrupted the minds of the surviving druids, and now these big giant violet purple mushrooms are sprouting up out of the city and people believe, it's noted actually specifically here, that people believe that those are sprouting up from the corpses of the dead archdruids, and they're like sort of giving the people visions and shelter, and it's all from these druids when it's actually this Xenos parasite. I got way off track there, giving you the lore of the Violet Port. The reason I brought up the Violet Port is because the druids who were sent here are the ones who sort of sent, or they did blood occult rituals, like pretty heretical druidic magics, over in this section of jungle to really make it grow as lush as it possibly can. So let's be keeping that in mind. Start dropping your ideas. Oh, Mark, I was almost going to call you Clark. That's your last name. Mark, appreciate you becoming a member here on the YouTube channel. There's some like cool emojis you can access because of that stuff, and I also need to update the link. There's at the membership of the missionaries, which is what you joined at, you get the monthly zine from Patreon that also needs to go on YouTube. I need to get the traveling NPC shared on here as well, but I appreciate that. My gosh, I've been doing so much talking and so much lore dumping here, we haven't even been able to get into our actual brainstorming. But we're slightly ahead of schedule. Usually I've been rambling for about 15 minutes. We're only at 10. Let me copy down our description of the Violet Port. There it is, the Violet Port, so we can have that for reference. And then let's do this thing. Oh no, it's like 7? Yeah, there we go. Oh no, why I'm copying the wrong thing. I need to copy the, my gosh, sorry. Anybody getting motion sickness yet? Where are you? Oh, I had called it the Spittle Grove. That was just like a cool sounding name. But I don't know if it really necessarily makes sense for what this place is actually meant to be. All right, here we go. Now I'll stop going crazy with our scrolling. All right, so we've got our little summary of it up here. What could be some cool ideas for this place? Yeah, Kenneth, what could be in the man-eating mangroves, I wonder? Mark says, sap drips from the branches of the mangroves, a deep crimson red color. Smaller mammals, insects, etc. get stuck in it, and they get sucked up by the canopy to be consumed. Oh, it could be very vampiric. That could be cool. Yeah. The blood magics turned it not just into like a ravenous man-eating jungle, but that blood sap, to me, screams vampire. Now is it... I mean, I'm laughing because I'm like, oh, Mark, the campaign you're in, it has vampires in it. It's like doubling up on that theme. But it's a D&D world. There's got to be vampires. Yeah, let's drop that idea in here. Probably actually, I'm going to drop this idea, but then I want to come back and think up a more solid idea about the actual like blood rituals that were performed by these druids. But the plant life drips blood red sap that attracts insects and small mammals. Yeah, which are devoured by the plants. So it could even be like that. It's like raining blood here. Like it's so constantly dripping down from the canopy that it's like soaks into your clothes. Everything here is red. It's stained red with blood. Both literally and figuratively. It's like the blood sap, but also that just so many things get killed here and drained of their blood that's kind of stained everything. I think that could be cool. What's up, Noble Knight? Welcome into the chat. Good to see you. We're brainstorming ideas right now for the vampiric mangrove, or whatever we're gonna call it. What could we... The red-fanged mangrove, the red root mangrove, the I'm not sure. We'll come up with a cool name, I'm sure. Mark says maybe the ground was sterile, dusty, and lifeless. Through blood sacrifice, the terrain was changed, and the very air itself is corrupted by foul blood magics. Oh! Yeah, that's a cool idea, because the jungle, it's so sulfuric here. It's still a tropical rainforest, but maybe... What about this area? Maybe because it was next to Facepocker's mountain, this jungle just was constantly just full of blight and death, and it was like... It was a living jungle, but it was not one that you would want to go harvest things from. So they did these rituals to try and give it more life through vampiric magic. I like that. Let's roll with that for now. Facepocker's mountain. left this area of jungle withered and blighted. So the druids performed blood rituals to infuse the jungle with fresh, bountiful new life. That's awesome. Anything I would add to that? I don't think so. Not right now, at least. Samuel's got an idea. The vine cleavers, an ancient jungle automatons that were created by ancient artists to combat the mangrove spread. They were claimed by the jungle now, serving as puppets for the vines. Oh, that's a cool idea. That could be... it's a really cool idea. I don't know if it... like, in this particular world, my mind is telling me, like, it's meant to be really remote. This is, like, the last frontier, right? So there were these druids that built their city. There was a technologically advanced city at the northern tip of the Jungle Peninsula, but that was destroyed by the gods when the stars fell. Like, maybe they had built some machines that could come down and help clear a jungle, but I don't know if, like, this particular druid port city is one where I would see them having a lot of automatons, nor would it have been a city that would have built automatons, I don't think. It's more in the druidic vibe than it is clockwork, science-y vibe, but I appreciate the idea, Samuel. It's still cool. Exactly, Kenneth. This entire grove, it is all meant to be the aftermath of these druids' blood sacrifice. And it's not like the blood ritual stuff happened recently. It happened a long time ago, several human generations ago, before the Great Pilgrimage even happened, and it's just been running more and more rampant. That's probably something we need to even explore in here. In the ages since the Great Pilgrimage, and in the absence of the druids, I want to use, like, maintenance, but that's not right. In the ages since the Great Pilgrimage, and in the absence of the druids' care, this jungle's thirst for blood has grown to near vampiric levels. It might be a cool way to describe it. Oh, that's kind of a cool name, Mark. Mangrove of Exsanguination. That's pretty sweet. Sanguine could be... that's a good word to work into it, yeah. I'm going to put that down for now. It's pretty cool. Exsanguination. Is that how you spell that? Nope, apparently not, but that's fine. Hey, what's up, Brat Compressor? Do animals live here, or would the mangroves kill all the living things and not just humans? It's one of those things in a fantasy world where it's like, how could any animal survive in this place? Wouldn't the jungle have just killed all of them by now? But it's like, well, it's a fantasy world, so yeah, like, animals still manage to live here. And honestly, the jungle probably attracts a lot of animals from the surrounding jungle. They kind of are lured in here with this blood sap. So yeah, we definitely need to think about what other types of creatures are living here. I don't know if I see this being a place where, like, I actually see vampires running around, although this ensanguinated mangrove, or whatever we're going to call it, does border the troll cauldrons, which, as part of that lore, we decided that some elves had, like, came up into that region to try and slay Facepocker, right? I already told you this, but that's what caused the volcanic vents to open up and actually create the troll cauldrons. And some of those elves still live here as these, like, mystical dinosaur riding dragon hunters sort of vibe. And some of them could certainly have succumbed to a vampiric curse. So your party could have a random encounter with an elf vampire in the exsanguinated mangrove, but I don't think it's the sort of thing where there's, like, a tribe of vampires, or there's just, like, tons and tons of vampires running around the area. At least I don't think, but changed my mind. Maybe there are. Eric says, tropical beautiful flowers that if someone bumps into, releases spores into the air that can cause them to faint onto the moist earth. Oh, yes, something like, we could do something like vampiric charming magics. Maybe we could work that into the way that these flowers kind of consume you. I'm kind of thinking of the vibe of, you know how there are some bugs who, like, if you look at them from the top down or from behind, their camouflage looks like a face. Like, it looks like a big owl's eyes, or like moth wings. You see that a lot, right? When they open up their wings, it looks like a face. What if there was a flower that when it bloomed, it looked like two blood red eyes that you're like, whoa, I got charmed by it. And then these blood-sucking what would they be called? Not what's like a proboscises? What would, like, if a plant has I don't want to call it a tentacle. I feel like there's a word for this. Like a plant had, and I guess a vine, maybe? Like blood-sucking vines curl around you while you're charmed by this plant. That could be pretty cool. Yeah, I dig that. Let's throw it down for now. Many plants here have developed a I'm using really kind of lame verbiage right now, but blood eye not camouflage, patterning? Yeah. That charms creatures who look at them while their vampiric vines drain them of their blood. Sick idea, Eric. Very cool. Yeah, Mark kind of building off Eric's idea, saying, imagine the fauna would have adapted, some becoming vampiric themselves. Exactly. Kenneth said, because of the blood sacrifices that are downstream, or maybe I think Kenneth might have been asking a follow-up to Mark's question of, like, why is the plant life vampiric? And it's because of what the druids did. They came here and did a bunch of blood magic, which maybe we need to expand on that a little bit more somehow, like what type of blood ritual. But the idea was they were trying to infuse, is that spelled with an I, not an E? Yeah. Infuse the jungle with new life. And how do you do that? You give it blood. And that's just caused it over the ages to become vampiric. Ooh, Noble Knight, that's interesting. Maybe a group of vampiric dryads from the forest are trying to fix things. And vampiric dryads. That's creepy. That's really creepy. They're like moving through the shadows and the darkness of this jungle. The canopy is so thick that the sunlight can't really get down, so they can move sort of at almost any time of day. That's cool. I do like that. I do like that. I might just tack that idea on at the end of here, vampiric dryads, and rework this whole idea to sort of convey both of those. But that's really cool. Lord Lost says maybe the blood sap makes them hallucinate. Yeah, the blood sap probably does need to... I mean, what did we say so far? The blood sap attracts insects, which are devoured. Yeah, what could the people... Like, what sort of alchemical purpose could the people here have found for this blood? There's got to be something cool about it, right? Maybe, like, maybe if you drink this blood, kind of going back to the idea that it was meant to... infuse the jungle with new life. Where were we? Oh, here we are. Maybe if you drink this sap, it can act as a healing potion. But if you drink too much of it, or even if you drink one, there's like a save, and if you fail, you can start to contract a form of vampirism. It's not like true vampirism, but you do thirst for blood. I think that's cool. Can drink like a healing potion, but must save or become a vampire. Very cool. Yeah, Kenneth, you make a good point. So far, we've only really got animal or plant monster ideas here. We definitely need to explore other things that are living here, and we also need to explore like some explorable locations, or think up an idea that conveys what type of environments would the characters find themselves in, or what sort of dungeons might exist here. Oh, Kenneth, I like that idea. The blood sap can kind of be turned into a sweet sort of wine. That's very vampiric feeling. That's cool. Or Noble Knight said, maybe as a result of the blood magic, the slimes in the area take on the characteristics of immune cells, trying to protect the forest from anything they perceive to be a foreign body. Very unique idea. Yeah. Kind of gives the jungle a sort of like hive mind sort of feeling, or like use like an immune system, but the fact that these oozes or these slimes kind of know what should and shouldn't be here. But the my hesitation with that one is the vibe that gives me is it's almost like I want the blood curse here to not be quite so like in balance. That's probably a good word for it. Like an immune system, things working together. To me, that conveys like things are as they should be. When I think of a blood, like an immune system, I don't think of something bad or evil. And vampiric, I want it to be more frightening, more bloodthirsty, more savage, just ruthless, as opposed to kind of this intelligent organism. You know what I mean? But it is a cool idea. Lord Lost says maybe the blood ritual made a heart at the Oh, that's very cool. Yeah, there's a oh, like what if like the all of the roots and the vines and everything that covers this jungle. Okay, this could sort of work in Noble Knight's idea of it being like an immune, not an immune system, but like a living biological sort of organism. Everything has this pulsing, like blood is literally moving through the vines, and wherever you're walking, it's a very like almost alien feeling environment where there's just this wet tubing all covering everything. Oh, that's really, really cool. Jungle is covered. Oh, how do we want to describe this one? Druids. What is the heart? That's what I want to convey. Something cool about the actual heart itself. How did they do it? Did they did they kill some sort of like sacred beast that had lived here for who knows how long? Like a unicorn's a lame example, I think, but they cut the heart out of this jungle's like guardian spirit that was being poisoned by Facepocker, and with its heart, they've now turned it into this more lush environment. Is that where they got the heart? Or maybe I've kind of said in the past like they did occult blood rituals, so maybe the heart is something they've like pulled out of another dimension. It's like a Cthulhu kind of weird heart thing. Anybody got an idea for that? Yeah, Mark, that's kind of cool. There are no individual trees anymore, just one massive living organism. Yeah, I feel like that's how we're gonna work Noble Knight's idea into here. Not so much an immune system, but a living organism of blood. That's creepy and feels very occulty. Could be an archphase heart. Yeah, the Great Bloody Bushy. Yeah, I don't know if I want to call something the Great Bloody Bushy for so many reasons. Maybe they sacrificed a dryad and now all the other dryads are corrupted. It could be like the oldest tree, because a dryad doesn't feel grand enough or big enough, but an ancient tree that they cut open and put a bunch of sacrifices in and filled it with blood, and now there's a heart growing inside of it. That could work for sure. Oh, Rat Compressor has a fun, just flavorful idea. One cool effect could be that the trees bleed if you take off bark or cut a branch, which attracts other plants. Yeah, and I feel like that fits in nicely with this idea of like the plant life drips blood, and it's not just well, I guess sap does come out when you wound a plant, but also they can kind of just produce blood, like sap, and like weep it, or it comes out of there. I guess sap doesn't come out of flowers on a tree or whatever, but that's definitely the vibe we're going for. Eric said, what if all the plants are connected like the Amazon jungle? All the plants work together? Exactly. I think we're all kind of getting that vibe. Samuel said, maybe it's a fallen husk of a god that became the heart of the mangrove. They desecrated the great Deku tree. Yeah. I'm liking this tree idea. But I like that it's a tree because that feels very jungly. It's a trope that players are familiar with and they like. in a giant forest or a giant jungle, there's the oldest tree, of course, right? But I feel like what if they like harvested a dead god's heart and put it in the tree? And that's where it's a great old one sort of vibe. Yeah, let's run with that. Druids harvested I don't want to just call it a great old one, but a forgotten god's heart, maybe? Or a slain, a murdered. A murdered is an interesting word. A murdered god's heart, and planted it within the trunk of the jungle's oldest tree. This heart, I'm totally blanking on the term. You've got your cardiovascular system, circulatory? No. What would you describe all your veins? I feel like it should be so obvious, but I just can't think of it. If I wanted to describe that this heart is like growing all of the new veins and like, what the hell is the word? Your arteries and stuff like that? I can't think of a good word for it, but I'm just going to put this heart is now growing veins across the entire jungle like vines. That's the vibe we're going for. I'll have to work in that idea of the thumping, because that's so creepy. That is an awesome vibe. Okay. Rat Compressor has a fun idea. A tree ant that hangs corpses of its victims from its branches. Yeah, I think that, is the cardiovascular system your heart system? Okay. Well, I probably won't call it that then in this description, because that's not a very cool, vivid word. But Rat Compressor, you are giving me an idea that I feel like we could just come up with a million ideas for the plant life in this jungle and just talk about that forever. But like plants here, trees, because of the heart that was planted in the oldest tree, maybe that's common to find corpses stuffed into trees. Or you know how like trees will grow around things? Like they'll grow around a Civil War cannon, or you'll find like a bicycle trapped in a tree. Like corpses are literally grown over. But now, does that make sense? Literally? No, because the corpse would decompose. I guess bones could maybe still be around, but it's kind of not, and I don't know if it's an idea I'll commit to this description. But I do like the idea that the plant life sort of mimics what this great old vampiric tree does. That's pretty cool. Oh, Lord Lost says maybe whatever is killed is slowly dragged back to the main tree. Well, what if instead of it being dragged back, it's funny, this is sort of an idea that is existing in my Wednesday campaign that Mark's playing in, but like, spoilers. I mean, Mark, you already guessed. I guess you guys already kind of discovered this 2 sessions ago, but there is this demon called Condor Thrak, the Infinite Decay. And he is sort of kind of has like Nurgle vibes going for him. He's a god of immortality and death and rot. But he started dabbling in blood, vampiric magics and things like that. And now he is corrupting vampiric spawn. And they've got these like leech tongues, and their stomachs, the vampire spawn stomachs, are literally like demonic parasites. In my world, demons are parasites from another dimension, and they latch onto a soul, or they latch onto living things like they would, like possession. Possession is just another word for infected by a parasite. And so all these vampire spawn have stomachs that are now these demonic mouth organ monstrosities. So any blood that the vampires drink, Condor Thrak is also drinking that blood. What if instead of being a thing where the bodies are dragged back to the tree, just any blood that the forest drinks is blood that is eventually being drank by this tree at the center of it? Because like we said, it's one big giant organism, one big giant vampire. That, oh my god, that's so cool. That is so cool. Now, like, the idea of the bodies get dragged back is interesting in the fact that we know like what happens to the bodies, but I also like the idea, like, if the bodies are just drained of their blood and all this flesh and the meat and stuff is just left there, then that's also another thing that would attract predators or scavengers, right? Wargs or monsters, whatever, come here to eat all of these husks, and that's where they also can get their blood drained by the jungle too. Yeah, Eric, if you put your ear to the floor, you hear the heartbeat, or it's like a trunk of a tree. You can, and I like the idea you can literally see it. Like the vines have this slight pulse to them, like if you were looking at a vein on your arm and you could see it like pumping the blood. That's the vibe I'm getting. Kenneth, I'm not familiar with the tree from Dante's Inferno, but I'm sure it's on a similar vibe. The sap flow? Maybe. I liked your sanguine sort of word. Sap flow doesn't sound scary to me. Kind of sounds almost like fey-ish, but I guess with the context of what we've been describing, it makes sense as a name, but it's not quite creepy enough. At least for me. Noble Knight says maybe the bones are grown in the trees in a way that makes it look like the tree has a face. Or maybe the bones in the forest mix with the blood and then crystallize into rubies that enhance blood magic. That's cool. I don't know if I'm going to necessarily give a line of text on this small little space to like, what? Oh, well, we got a little more room. There we go. I still don't know if I'll commit to it. Like, the bones left behind by the victims are not the most interesting thing to me. To me, like, it's the actual vampiric plants like sucking these bodies dry. That's what's more interesting to me. So I don't know if I'll commit some of our limited space here to describing the bones. But Noble Knight, like, what I like about the way that I'm sort of pitching these zines and why I write so system agnostically and kind of leave a lot of things unanswered is my hope is people take this and they come up with their own answers and they think like, oh, well, in my version of the Retched Tropics here in the Sanguine Mangrove or whatever it's going to be called, the bones become like emerald rubies or whatever. Emerald ruby, that might not be a word that makes any sense. But you could totally do it that way. And someone else like might say, oh, the bones actually like get pulled up into the tree and then they sort of act like the fangs. Like all of the rib bones are open on the tree's trunks to kind of catch creatures like a hunting trap. They close on them. And then it's like the vampire fangs puncturing into something, but they don't actually, that's not what drinks the blood. Then it's the vines that start lapping it up. Oh, maybe I do need to commit a line of description for it, because that's freaking sick. Lord Law says maybe the trolls next door have a relationship with this forest and eat the drained bodies. Yeah, they could certainly come and gather up some of the bodies, and I think what we do want to commit a line of description to that you just reminded me of is there are elves, trolls, and herb or spice collectors, and other explorers who come here are often turned into vampiric monstrosities. Because we've got our elf hunters, we've got our cannibal trolls, there's all the merchants and the spice collectors and the druidic people of the Violet Port. Any of them, I think, who come into this forest, if they get bit, maybe we need to add a little description here. Like, if you get bit and not properly drained, it functions very similar to a vampire bite. Or no, wait. That's a werewolf bite I'm thinking of. Vampirism is there, like, if you're drained of your blood. How does it work? I actually need to double check this, especially because I've got a campaign all about this. Here, let's look up, whoa. Oh, there we go. Vampire. How does that work? Okay, bite. Constitution saving throw, DC 17. One creature within 5 feet that is willing or that has the grappled, incapacitated, or restrained condition on a failure. You take a bunch of damage. Your hit point maximum is decreased, and the vampire regains HP equal to that amount. A humanoid reduced to 0 hit points by this damage. Oh, okay. So if you're reduced to 0 and then buried, rises the following sunset as a vampire spawn under the vampire's control. Okay, we can work with that. So, yeah, you know what, actually? Then it's like elf, trolls, spice collectors, and other explorers who come here and are drained of their blood, rise the next morning as vampiric I don't want them to be spawns of the jungle, because this isn't real vampirism. I'm more interested in just having these like feral, monstrous vampire creatures just running through the jungle, very I Am Legend style, just sprinting and going crazy, and or also like 27 Days Later. That's like zombies more than vampires. But have you seen the trailer for the new one that's coming out soon? It looks so sick. I'm very excited for it. We'll definitely be seeing that. Also, I think I might have said this last time, but I saw Sinners finally. Oh, that was so good. That movie was awesome. MO, did you upgrade the template of your session ideas? Did you upgrade the template of your session ideas? Upgrade. I'm not sure what you mean. Are you talking about my session notes? Or are you talking... I think if you're... Because I know I had said, like, my Wednesday campaign on Start Playing was for the previous one, before the party got TPK'd, and it was for, like, a hex crawl of Flounder Saddle. Now, I did update it. I updated that template. Now it is, like, you're playing in your Martyrs of the Retched Tropic, and here, the pitch of this campaign for Wednesday nights is you are a group of martyrs who has been sent to the Retched Tropics on a mission for Vecna to resettle this location. So the party is going to kind of, they're on a boat with a bunch of other pilgrims, and they're being sent to this old town, like a ruined village along one of the coastlines, and part of the campaign is like helping these people rebuild this village into a town and then into a city. Now that's obviously going to take a long time, so that's the campaign isn't literally going to be like watching this place grow into some giant metropolis, but more of like that frontier style. Like they are just here to build a foothold that Vecna can sort of resettle this place or conquer this place from. So they'll get to build their own little home, but then they also can go interact with the people of the Violet Port. They can go talk to the people at the Citadel of Ivory and kind of build relationships with those other communities and explore the jungle to plunder its resources, like so many mortals have done before. Okay, I need to get a little caught up here. Eric said, Noble Knight, all the trees have faces, would be super creepy. Oh, you're responding to something. Ooh, the Blood Writhe. Ooh, that's a cool name, Mark. The Blood Writhe. I like that. Yeah, if I don't just go with that, which I very much might, something with that sort of the Blood Writhe. That really conveys the feeling of being in this place. I really, really like that. Kenneth said another location idea could be the Great Thirsting Maws, a giant hole so deep down that light doesn't reach the bottom. A lot of giant pale thorns are closer or aligned. Oh, it's like a big sarlacc pit, but it's vampiric. That's cool. That is very cool. We probably do need some locations that are jumping to mind that are going to kind of combine your ideas here, Kenneth, would be druidic, in major air quotes, druidic shrines that the druids would have built here to kind of maintain these blood sacrifices. Oh yeah, here we go. Heretical druid shrines where blood sacrifices were performed are scattered throughout this jungle. Why would your players go here? Maybe many now serve as vampire nests. So all of the feral vampires. I know earlier in the stream I was like, I don't want there to be groups of vampires, but I am thinking of that I Am Legend scene where Will Smith, whatever, Neville, was that his name? Kind of a weird name. I'm going to call him Will. He goes around the corner in the building and they're all just like, they're like sleeping in the dark. That's the vibe I get, where you go down into these creepy blood sacrificial druid temples and you find a what would you call that, a pack of vampires nesting down in there, and also house like druidic relics. Like, why would your players go here? I mean, like, my DM mind is saying, well, part of, if you wanted to cleanse the jungle, spoiler alert, Mark, if you're going to play in this But like I'm thinking maybe if you want to cleanse this area of jungle from the vampiric curse, you need to go to these shrines and clear them all out, and only then can you kill the heart that is set into that tree at the center. But what other things could be in these that the characters want to go get? Also, Kenneth, thank you for kind of giving me the spark for this idea. Noble Knight says maybe the vampires that are created from these plants gain some sort of plant life quality. I was thinking about that. I don't necessarily know what. Maybe they have like, because they get killed, they fall into the ground. Maybe they're like consumed by the plants, like they're grown over, and then they emerge from this plant cocoon as a vampire. So there's like plants kind of growing along their backs and down their arms that acts as natural camouflage. And that also feels very feral. It's almost like fur. There's so much plant life on it. That's a cool idea. I wonder if I could describe that in here somewhere. Yeah, plants grow over them like fur, adding to feral feeling. That's just for my own reference. It won't read like that in the final one. What else we got? Mark, the vampires are down in these druidic temples, like drinking from the blood that comes down on the roots. Yeah, they're like literally like vampire bats. They're biting into the veins of these roots and lapping up the blood. That's cool. That's very cool. How many ideas is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So many of our lists are D8. I want to have a little more variety in that, but Noble Knight says maybe the wood here is stronger than steel because of all the vitality in it. Yeah, could be cool. Mark saying the adventurers could be enticed by druidic relics rumored to have magical properties, corrupted relics that require the shrine to be cleansed. Yeah, I'm thinking it's druid relics. Just makes the most sense. You need treasure in a dungeon, and many of these relics are cursed. So yeah, they're powerful druidic weapons or wands or staves or whatever, and they have very good properties, but you also got to deal with this vampire curse that's going on. Ooh, Kenneth said, kind of adding on to the idea for the vampiric holes, added that the hole has deep, wet, bloody roots that cover the hole so much that the walls of the hole kind of... Wait. Oh, yeah, like it covers its own opening, and then you fall down into it, and it's... I dig that. It's a cool idea. Yeah, why don't we... Sure, let's do it. We'll call them, like, blood pits are a common hazard. Which... the semi-sentient... I'm just going to say sentient for now. Sentient plants dig out and fill with jagged bones to prevent escape, giving the entire pit the look of a mouth. I don't know if that makes any sense the way that I just wrote it, but I do like that idea, Kenneth, that a very common threat here is literally falling into the jungle's mouth, into the maw of the jungle. And when you fall to the bottom of this pit, so all the bones are kind of like turned downwards, so it's like you can't climb up without getting pierced or punctured by a bunch of these teeth. And then at the bottom of the pit is just this mound of, I guess not really digested because it's vampiric, but just husks and dead corpses. Maybe that's like where ghouls and things can also, like, there's lots of ghouls in this area of the jungle that are eating these dead, rotting bodies. And when you fall down in there, you get tangled up in the vines and they start draining you of your blood. Although, as I'm describing it, it's a cool hazard, but it does feel like it serves a similar purpose to the druid shrines of, like, underground areas where the vampires are at and where they maybe spawn out of. So maybe I'll keep it, but I'll leave it on here for now. Lord Lost, just a little random detail. The area could smell like iron, just because blood smells like iron. Yeah. Although, to be honest, I don't even know what iron smells like. That would be a hard thing to sort of... If I was describing that, I'd be like, oh, okay. I have nothing to really go off of with that. Now, if it was to say, like, oh, the air, like, you can taste the blood in the air. That I can more easily relate to, of like, you cut on your finger and you kind of suck up the blood, and you know what blood tastes like, or when you get a bloody nose, or you bite your tongue really hard. That's a description that could kind of give me some strong immersion. Oh, Lord Lost, that's a cool idea too. You hear the thump thump sound of the jungle's heart beating too much, and you just kind of go a little crazy. Yeah, I like that. What is this missing? Is there anything that needs to be added here? I don't know if it does. I think we might be pretty solid. I do hate that so many of my lists are D8 lists, so I'll probably either expand this to a D10 or try and cut some of them down to a D6 just for the variety. But for right now, I think we're solid. And we're making good time here today. Very nice. Okay. Why don't we move on, yeah? Oh, Mark did toss in an idea. Maybe there's some sort of oasis being threatened, maybe? What jumped into my mind when you mentioned an oasis is like there are literally like blood bogs, or there are like, there's small ponds or small lakes in the jungle that are just literally filled with blood. That's just a cool image. I don't necessarily know what is there, or why your characters would want to go there. Oh, something about... Oh, yeah, Kenneth. Good memory. We probably need to add a point that... Oh. Yeah, the canopy grows so thick. So thick that sunlight can't easily reach the floor, or the jungle floor, making it possible for the vampires to hunt all hours of the day. Cool. That's a fun little extra description. Now, Kenneth, you also bring up an interesting little point that I need to... it's been on my mind the past couple days, of the light of the black hole, or the sunlight, is blocked heavily here, because in this setting of the old world, I've established that the sun died. It collapsed in on itself. The death of this heavenly star is what kind of caused the gods to be like, we're out of here. We gotta go. And so, now obviously a black hole there is no light coming off of it anymore. So how does this fantasy world function with without a sun? I think I'm going to... It's not really a retcon, because everything in my world is so full of mystery and myth that, like, what is true and what isn't, who really knows? But I'm thinking maybe the sun hasn't died yet, but it is dying. And so the Doomsday that everybody's worried about, the Great Apocalypse, that is when the sun does die. When the sun collapses in on itself and turns into a black hole, like, that's an almost instant game over screen. But right now the sun is dying, so it has like a pale, ghoulish light. That's why I actually really like this idea, because in my art, I like to depict I just use an urchin, which is a kind of a pretty big callback to when I was first developing my setting, and I thought maybe the world was called Urchin, and maybe it is. Maybe I will still keep that bit of lore. But I just started using this urchin as also the sun. I just liked the jagged, spiky look of it. But the fact that it's just like pale white, and it causes the heavens to be that pinkish, yellowish, apocalyptic color, that's because the sun is dying and the light coming off of it is not... It's not... I mean, I know that this doesn't make sense for, like, the science of our world, right? Like, the sky is blue because it reflects off of the ocean, or I think that's something about why the sky is blue, right? But in my world, the sky during the day is an apocalyptic wasteland of pinks and yellows and things because the sun is dying. And that's all you need to know. That's why it is the way that it is. Don't think about it too hard, right? Okay, one more, because we're at a D8. We got to get to a D10. Or no, we're at a D9. And now we got to get to that D10. Oh my god. jumping all over the place. Let's see. Mark says, places where the canopy has been peeled back and sunlight shines through. It's an oddity in this place, but it's being constantly threatened to be consumed. An enclave of druids, perhaps? Oh, like there are... That's an interesting idea. So you're saying that there are some druids that are trying to cleanse it, and they're like... they live in areas of this jungle where there is enough sunlight to kind of shine down that it protects them. That's an interesting idea. That is a very interesting idea. I like it. The main reason I like this idea that there are some druids here that are good is because they can be the druids who tell the players what's going on at the Violet Port. Because the big secret of that hex and that location is there's this fungal Xenos parasite that is controlling everybody's minds. And it's not outright like a super evil, imminent threat. Like, it's not killing anybody. It's more of this slow corruption of the world as the merchant ships that come to the Violet Port unknowingly take the spores of this creature off to other sections of the doomed world. But maybe there are some druids that, A, survived the Great Pilgrimage, and B, weren't corrupted by this Xenospore thing, and they have been living in this forest this whole time. That's cool. That's really cool. Okay, I'm gonna stick with that. I'm gonna go with that. Maybe we'll say rumors claim that there are some druids. This might not actually make sense. I was going to say there are rumors that say there are some druids who weren't corrupted by or infected by the Xenos parasite, but nobody knows that, so there wouldn't be rumors. If people heard rumors that there are druids who aren't infected, then that means people know that there are druids who are infected. But we'll just go with some druids who weren't infected by the Xenos parasite have been living here in secret, trying to cleanse the jungle, and avoid... I'll need to give that a little more thought of, like, what is known about these druids and what is their end goal and how do they survive here. But just the idea of there being this secret druid circle that lives in a vampiric forest is very cool. Kenneth just dropping an idea, though, about the sun and the death of the sun and that sort of vibe here. Said, maybe a new religious practice is given to the black hole and turned into the holy black sun, giving it, like, new holy power from... Yeah, so Kenneth, you're... Sorry, the message was a little clunky there, but I think I know what you're saying. You're saying the sun did collapse, and it is a black hole, and that's the thing that sort of gives new power to it, a new reverence to it. I'd thought about that. I did think that could be interesting, but the problem that I ran into is, like, well, when I'm trying to do art, if I turn this thing, like here, if I just go, oh, it's going to be a little slow. I've noticed, like, hold on, give it a second. Come on. There we go. Like, that, narratively, it is interesting that there's a black hole and it's putting out black light. And that maybe is like a reason why the art is black and white, right? It is interesting, but artistically or visually, to me, I'm like, that looks weird. That just looks like I was going to say, it looks like there's a hole in the paper, which is cool. That does add to the idea of it being a black hole. But I don't think the average person would look at this. I mean, already it's like such a crazy, intense image. You'd be like, I think a lot of people would be turned off by that. But it just doesn't look correct. It doesn't look right. And so I think I kind of want to keep it as a white sun. It just looks more natural in the art. But I do think you give me an interesting idea, Kenneth, that there are certainly Doomsday cults who believe that when the sun turns black, that's when they will be welcomed into the heavens, or like they'll be put out of their misery or something like that. That's very Morkborky vibe, inspired by them too. So, okay. Anything? Yeah, Mark, you agree. It does look weird. Yeah, so I won't leave it like that. I'll change it back to white, but I don't care to fix it right now. All right. Well, nice. We got our wait, where was it? We got our D10 list for the blood writhe, or whatever I'll call it. Gonna need to shorten some of these down, kind of clip some of these extra lines so that I can have more room for the art. But very cool. So now we get to do the tangled ivory. Oh yeah, let's get our description of this copied real quick. The tangled ivory is... Oh my god, that takes up so much space. I'm going to make that smaller for now, so we can come up with a longer list. Okay, so the tangled ivory is a boggish nesting ground. I don't know if I want it to actually be too boggy. I think I'll kind of get rid of that. But it's a boggish nesting ground for the tropics' largest and most terrifying horned monstrosities, who the Alabaster Knights have attempted to ritualistically hunt to extinction since their arrival. Even the megaflora here sprouts alabaster thorns the size of a man's forearm. So some of those ideas will transition down into our description list of ideas. But yeah, now we are truly getting to brainstorm the classic dinosaur fantasy jungle. That is the theme of the Tangled Ivory. Dinosaurs and big giant horns, or thorns and things like that. So, what do we got? I think one of the first things that's jumping to mind is we had talked about in the Troll Cauldrons that there were these elves who had built up a kingdom, or not really built a kingdom, but they'd been expanding their kingdom in this jungle. And now, after Facepocker kind of beat them and destroyed most of that, there's only a few surviving elves. I think it makes more sense that those elves, they wouldn't live in the Troll Cauldrons. They would live here. If they are dinosaur-riding elves and they protect the dinosaurs from Facepocker and from the Alabaster Knights, yeah, why wouldn't they just live here? Why would they live in a section of the jungle where there's a bunch of trolls trying to eat them? So that's one I'll put in here. I don't want it to be necessarily the first one, but has become a refuge for the surviving elves from the Troll Cauldrons. What do they live in? They live in... Someone had mentioned in the previous stream, oh, what's up, Hidden? Welcome. Dude, Hidden, I'm very excited to talk with you tonight about your character. It's going to be sick. But someone had mentioned that maybe there was like a caveman sort of vibe to these elves. I'm wondering if that's something we want to explore again. Like maybe they literally just live in caves scattered throughout the Tangled Ivory. I like that. I like it. It's a very, to me, a bunch of elves with dinosaur bone sort of decorations that are not from hunting them, but from the ones that have like as a way to honor them. They've got that going for them. They've got spears. They've got they're out in the jungle with like plant life kind of like growing around them as like their skirts or their whatever, their clothes are kind of made from the jungle. That feels tribal. That feels like that just classic look. That works for me. Live in caves alongside dinosaurs. So I like this too. It's instead of cavemen and dogs, it's elves, or it's cave elves and dinosaurs. Very, very sick. Let's see. A Fountain of Youth trope? Could be something to explore. Mark. Oh, maybe the elves regressed? Yeah, I was thinking that. I imagined when the elves arrived, they weren't, like, industrial, or they weren't as technologically advanced as humans, but they kind of were already very, like, tribal, or primitive. So I imagine in this instance, it's less of a regression and more of just, like... I mean, I guess when I think of regression, I think of, like, the elves made mistakes, or they were corrupted, or things kind of like they pulled themselves down. That's just for me what I think of with regression. This is more of an instance of like Facepocker just destroyed their civilization, and there's not enough of them left to build it back up. So out of necessity to survive, they've sort of fled into the caves, is kind of the vibe in my head. Which I guess, I mean, that probably technically is regression, but the connotation of regression is a little different for me, I think. Okay, other ideas for Tangled Ivory. What does the environment look like here? I'd said boggish, but I don't think I want it to be boggy. We've got enough of that in different areas here. I'm imagining more of like, is it Vietnam? Or maybe is it South Korea? I mean, it's all over the place over in Asia, but the like super tall, rocky, what are they called? Not a bluff. Maybe that's what it is. Like, but just the big, tall, jagged spire. There's a word for it. Spires of rock that the jungle like clings to the sides, and like the tops of them have these like little micro jungles. That's sort of the vibe I'm getting here, like tropical canyons. That's an environment we haven't really offered in this area, and I think it could be cool. I'm gonna go with it. Environment is a jungle canyon crowded with rocky spires that micro jungles grow atop, and are all connected by vine bridges. So very King Kong, like Peter Jackson's King Kong vibes. You've got vines that are so thick they're like growing between these trenches, these canyons, and that's how you cross. It's not a bunch of wood bridges. It's just not civilized enough. Like there's literally not enough people here to have done that. But you still want your players to be able to traverse this area, and having a fight on a big vine bridge is very cool. Okay, there's an idea. Yeah, hunter-gatherer vibes. That's a good word for it, Mark, for these elves. Okay, so the environment is a jungle canyon crowded with rocky spires. See, this is an... How does autocorrect not realize that the word is environment? It's literally like one letter needs to get shifted. How does it not know that? That's crazy. Absolutely crazy. Okay, so the environment is a jungle canyon with big, tall, rocky spires. We've got elf refugees of this ancient civilization that are living in the caves amongst the dinosaurs. Maybe we need a point to describe like what's at the top, like what lives atop the rocky spires and what lives down at the bottom, because those seem like two very different ecosystems we could sort of explore. Mark says maybe all the tree bark here is white. The leaves have changed into a golden yellow that gives it the look of being littered with gold, as seen from above on the canyon's edge. Interesting. You do the mention of like a golden or sort of a yellowish color does remind me, oh yeah, like even if this is where the elves live and it's like one of the more good aligned places, it is still part of the Retched Tropic, which has me thinking, going back to my question just a moment ago of what's at the top versus what's at the bottom, maybe the bottom has like rivers of sulfuric gas that just flow through them. Like it is, you go down there and it's a really, really bad place. But the tops of these rocky spires are as close to a safe haven as you can get from the putrid sulfuric gases. But even that isn't like necessarily true. It's not like they're able to completely avoid it. But let's go with that first idea of canyons are filled with rivers of sulfuric gas and water. What is like living down there though? Are there specific kinds of monsters we could have? Like yeah, dinosaurs, but like is there something about this gas that like causes them to become more ferocious? Does it mutate them in some way? A lot of this sulfuric gas would flow down from Facepocker's lair, the Pocked Mountain, which is just to the northwest of it. So it could probably do something there. Maybe it does turn them more feral. I'm not sure. Maybe you all have some ideas. Kenneth Soto says, going off the idea of ivory, there's definitely a pale area, like almost unnaturally pale, close to blinding and next to impossible to give it different shade unless it's black and blood. Whoa. I'm not quite following you on that one, Kenneth. Lord Law says, maybe all the vines have choked out all the light and life from the lower sections of the land, so the upper area is super friendly. Nice, but the lower is deadly. Yeah, I mean, that's the vibe I definitely want. You go lower, it's more deadly. You go higher, it's more hospitable. I don't know if I want it to be that the vines choke things out, though, because we've already got... Like, we just did the Sanguine Mangrove, which is all about the plant life being what kind of kills things. Here I want it to be more about monsters. Just not sure what kind yet. Sulfur goblins? Oh, sulfur goblins. That's a fun idea. Maybe there's... Could it be like you've got good elves and evil elves? That sort of vibe? Like, not drow, because it's not the Underdark, but elves that have been corrupted by this sulfuric gas. Now they worship Facepocker. We haven't given Facepocker any minions or servants. What about kobolds? There's lots of kobolds down here. Kobolds, dinosaurs, that feels like something that could kind of work. Noble Knight said, you mentioned earlier that the elves do necromancy. I think maybe this is where they keep all their skeletons and zombies. Yeah, now it's not necromancy with zombies. It was like the elves we talked about. Maybe they raise dinosaur bones up from the ground. So yeah, that probably does need to come into account here. Yeah, let's go with... We'll at least toss that in here. Skeletal dinosaurs guard this place against hunters from the Citadel of Ivory. That name isn't really doing it for me anymore. When I hear Citadel of Ivory, I think of I guess I do think of what it is. Like, it was a tower of bone built by a knightly order, but it doesn't sound like a name that the people who live there now would use. The people who are now more of a village of bone hunters, would they call it the Citadel of Ivory? Citadel sounds too medieval, and that sort of part of the history of that settlement has been lost. So I might change that name. But skeleton dinosaurs guard this place against hunters from the Citadel of Ivory, and Facepocker's influence, raised by the elves. We got to give them a cool name at some point, or I got to come up with one. Mark says, I've always been fascinated with the idea of a large whale-like creature that flies, diving down from the clouds to eat. Yeah, I don't know if... I mean, it is a cool idea. I don't know if it's one that really fits the vibe of this jungle, not just the Tangled Ivory, but kind of the jungle at large. But it is a cool idea. Kenneth asked, what's the name of the dinosaur that flies? The one in Jurassic Park 2? A pterodactyl? Yeah, there's probably some pterodactyls going on here. Kenneth saying, what I meant earlier is that no matter what, it's always an ivory sort of color here. And that black and blood lasts longer than most colors, being more visible here. Oh, I see what you're saying now. The God's Rib. That's a cool name, Mark. Yeah, so going off of your idea, Kenneth, of there's like an ivory color here, what if we said, so instead of just calling them rocky spires, they're limestone, a white sort of alabaster colored rock. So that's very, very, that's basically what they are in Asia. If I remember correctly, a lot of them are just big limestone columns of rock that have been worn down by rivers, very much how our Grand Canyon was formed, but a different type of rock. The God's Ribs. That's a cool name. Or the Pale Spears. That's also a really cool name. Oh, that could be the name of the elves. The Pale Spear tribe. Where could I put that in here? There we go. Kind of mention it there. The pale spears. Ooh, very, very cool. The God's Ribs could be a cool name, because the Tangled Ivory doesn't quite work now that we've actually started describing this place of it's not just a flat jungle that is super overgrown. Although we do still have like big vines and vine bridges growing between these big peninsulas of bone. And it is like a canyon. You can kind of get lost in this labyrinth, especially if you're down at the bottom. Maybe the Tangled Ivory still does make sense. I kind of still like the name. Okay. So, we've got that it is an environment of limestone canyons and big spires of rock connected by vine bridges. We've got that it's a refuge for the pale spear elves. We've got that there's sulfuric rivers of gas and water flowing along the bottom. We've got skeletal dinosaurs are a very common threat here, in addition to living dinosaurs, which we need to introduce that into this description somehow. Hey Samuel, good to see you. I appreciate you popping in between work to say hi. Very nice of you. Noble Knight said, if kobolds do live here, and they worship the dragon, then maybe the bottom is infested with traps. You have to be careful down there. Yeah. Do I want to commit to the kobolds? It seems like a cool threat. Or we could do... I was going to say lizard folk, like another lizard folk tribe. But I like that we've got the lizard folk to the north who worship... What did I call them? I think I called them the black scales. Like obsidian sort of vibes. But we've got the black scale lizard folks who worship the Mantle Empress, and then we've got a tribe of kobolds who worship Facepocker. Yeah. Canyons are filled with rivers of sulfuric gas and water. Tribe of kobolds descended from Facepocker live here and they don't hunt the elves, and despise the elves. Needs a little work, but I think having some kobolds is cool. Mark says maybe there's some sort of bone bridge. Some large ancient creature's spine or ribs. Vines have grown over it and through it to get to the other side. Oh yeah, there was that's a visual you see all over the place, but in the most recent Godzilla King Kong movie, there was a huge Titan skeleton that formed a sort of natural bridge. Certainly could have something like that here. Yeah, we could add that to this one. Grown over the skeletons of colossal dinosaurs from a primordial time. Noble Knight says, since there are so many caves, maybe bears live here, like cave bears and things like that. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, maybe we want to add the limestone spires are riddled with caves, which pterodactyls... Did I spell that right? No, I thought I did. Was I close? I was pretty close. Which pterodactyls, elves, manticores, and all other manner of flying beasts or monsters live in. Very, very cool. Mark's saying maybe the kobolds ride velociraptors or pterodactyls. Yeah, I was trying to kind of think in my head, what do they ride on? Because the elves ride the dinosaurs, and I kind of want that to include the pterodactyls. The kobolds are down low. Like the elves sort of live up in these caves or on the tops of the spires. The kobolds are down in the darkest, deepest parts where they ride. You could do basilisks, you could do... We'd mentioned that there were acid-spitting lizards in the description, like in the Retched Tropics kind of overview description. We'd said there's acid-spitting lizards here. That was sort of just more of a like, oh, if you need just a general enemy anywhere on the tropics, have an acid-spitting lizard. But maybe that's what's down here. Kind of like scurrying through the tropics, or it kind of helps them climb up the the spires or can swim in the rivers. I feel like that could work. Oh, hidden. What's this idea here? The settlers might call the citadel the Fingers. Feels like it's a nominal cultural name, simulating the reach for the heavens for a touch of that ambition that elves are known for. Interesting that you have... when I think ambition, I think of humans. I don't necessarily relate ambition to elves. I guess like I think of arrogant, or it's another word for it. I think I kind of get what you're going for, and I do think the name The Fingers is cool, but kind of is more creepy than it is like a beautiful name that I would associate elves to give it. Maybe some salt mines where dwarves mine the salt. Yeah, but if we've got elves here, I don't want dwarves and elves living in the exact same hex. For two reasons. One, it makes that hex feel crowded. Like you've kind of got two clashing cultures in one little space that I already have this idea of the elves clashing with the humans up at the Citadel of Ivory. So that's the one reason. The other being the old world, this setting is meant to be post-apocalyptic. So I already feel like we've got quite a bit of civilization on this jungle peninsula for it being post-apocalyptic. So I don't know if I necessarily want to introduce dwarves to this setting. I like that it's elves. Lord Law said maybe in the lower part of this area, the sulfur solidifies or condensates into a stone that is used in some rituals. Maybe. Oh, Mark messaged me something in the... Here, I'll jump over to our... I don't have Discord linked to be able to show it on stream, but let's see what you sent me. Oh, interesting. Yeah, that's a very Native American vibe. Like there's a lot of that here in Utah. Of cities carved into the sides of rocks and things. That's cool. And that's what I imagine for the elves. Or almost like huts kind of hanging from the sides of these rocky spires that they live in. Noble Knight says maybe for loot, you could have like a bunch of ores and minerals and things exposed on the sides. Yeah, like gemstones and stuff. Could be. Not to completely undo a bunch of the prep we've come up with so far, but what do we think about the idea of just replacing elves with dwarves? To me, the idea of dinosaur riding dwarves is very different. Very, very different, and not something you normally see. You kind of, I think more often you see elves riding them, but I am kind of considering it because I like the visual of dwarves riding dinosaurs. This jungle has quite a few things that have been described as like underground. We've got the ruptured hive that has these beetles that are digging tunnels all over the place. We've got the vampiric rainforest section of the jungle where the druids have built these underground temples of blood sacrifice. We've got I guess maybe that's it so far, but both of those are enough to make me think like, oh, having some dwarves that are mining things all over the place could be cool. Let's do a poll. What do we think? The pale spears are ... dwarves or elves? And I will say I reserve the right to change it no matter what if you guys vote elves, but I at the end of the day decide that this is one where I want to have final say and I change it to dwarves, I might just do that. Normally, no, I can't do that. I've said in the past I respect the polls, but I will say I kind of hope you guys vote for dwarves. I think dwarves are cooler. Lord Law, sorry, Mark, he was talking about campaign Discord that I'm in. The church does technically still have a Discord server, but I have not been on there in forever. It's basically dead, which is why I was hesitant to start it in the first place. If you guys have been attending the streams for a while, like way back when I first started doing them, people were like, you should do a Discord. And I said on stream, I was like, I'm worried that it's going to become this thing that is just a chore to like have to keep active, and I don't really use Discord. And I, against my better judgment, created a server, and you know what happened? The exact thing that I was afraid of. The server is dead because I didn't care enough to want to use it and update it all the time. I'm just not a Discord guy. I only use it for my campaigns because there's like no alternative really. Okay. That's a minute on the poll. That's usually when I end it. And thank God, the dwarves won. Okay. So now we can introduce some ideas that the dwarves have carved mines into many of these spires to harvest the rare gemstones and ancient dinosaur bones. See, another reason why I feel like dwarves fits a little better is we had described the elves as being these like fossil-themed sort of warriors, but fossils to me just, like dwarves and fossils, like something about those puzzle pieces just, it fits nicely. In my head, I can imagine that a lot easier than, fossil elves, what does that look like? It just doesn't quite bring vivid imagery to mind the same way that this does. So, hell yeah. Okay, dwarves have carved mines in the many of these spires to harvest the rare gemstones and ancient dinosaur bones, and to build their homes. So then, if the dwarves live in the spires of rock, and we've got kobolds at the bottom, then the tops are where the dinosaurs live, I imagine. Tops of the limestone spires are where the dinosaurs live and build their nests in abundance because they're protected by the dwarves. Now that's where I feel like these dwarves are unique. Very rarely do I hear, I can't even really give you any example I've heard of dwarves being protectors of nature. That's an elf trope or a gnome trope. But I like that we're giving it to the dwarves in this case. And they're not druids. It's not protecting nature because they're druids. They love dinosaurs. And that's why they want to keep them alive. Sick. And Noble Knight saying, I saw the word caveman in your message. I'll read it in a second. But caveman and dwarf, like, come on. Those also just feel like they just go together. But Noble Knight said, if we're still keeping the caveman theme, maybe these dwarves do the caveman vibe because that's how their original ancestors lived. Yeah, and like you even can just have dwarves living in a cave. And even if you just left it at that, I can imagine a caveman aesthetic to that. The dwarves are, I guess I don't know like what they're, when I think of dwarves, I think of drinking and singing and all that sort of stuff. That also has a little bit of cavemaniness to it, of like doing these rituals and dancing around a fire in a cave. I could see dwarves doing that, right? Maybe the dwarves are reverent of the bones, like archaeologists, where they're meticulous about cataloging and extracting them in an almost ritualistic style. Yeah, Mark, totally. I do. There's probably going to need to be a page in this zine that just kind of goes over the factions. Because if it's, like, the factions are introduced and talked about and referenced in these hex write-ups. But similar to how we have a page that's just, like, a quick summary of the locations on the hex map, and then each of those has a more clear write-up, we probably will want to do something similar for the actual factions themselves. And I'm also planning on having this be my next Kickstarter book. The Doomed Stronghold is almost done. I should be finished with making all of the zines. Holy shit, that took forever. Now I just got to ship them all out. But I feel like this location is really cool. And it's been fun to make it on stream. And so that will probably be, let's see, so we're in May, June. Probably will be a Kickstarter that goes live in July, I think. I'll need to finish up this month So this month we'll finish this. It'll go up live on the Patreon as a PDF at the end of the month. And by the end of this month, this Doom Stronghold will be gone. Then June, I can sort of be prepping the Kickstarter, get the pre-launch page up, have people start to follow it, and then July launch it. And the what's great about that is not only will I have most of the zine done, unlike the Doom Stronghold where I had a couple tables written and a little bit of art done, but I had to basically make the whole thing. Now I'll have a finished zine that could just go out as is, but with it being a Kickstarter, we can add stuff to it. We can give it more random tables and maybe, I don't know, add more pages basically, which will be cool. What were we talking about? Where were we? We were on the... Where is it? Oh, it was near the bottom. The Tangled Ivory. That name will probably need to change, though. That doesn't feel like very dwarf sounding. Yeah, Mark, we need to... I mean, this whole thing is going to need a super big edit and a bunch of things like that on my end that I don't do on stream. So yeah, I'll have to go replace all the reference of elves. Kenneth, I hope I have a job by then. I hope you do too, my man. I hope you do too. Okay. What do we got? What do we got? We've talked about the environment. We've talked about the Pale Spear Dwarves. We've talked about... We've referenced a little bit of what's at the bottom and the tribes of kobolds down there. We probably want another line to describe these kobolds. There's a bunch of skeleton dinosaurs that have been raised by the dwarves. There's a lot of caves on these spires where flying monsters live. The dwarves live inside the mine, or inside these spires where they've carved mines and cave citadels. We've mentioned that the dinosaurs, the living dinosaurs, are on the tops of these rocky bluffs and spires, which is where these like little mini jungles grow. I feel like I want another cool idea about our kobolds, or something about the bottoms of this area. We could introduce, like, do the bottoms of these jungle canyons, are they so deep? Do we start to get into sort of Underdark vibes? That could be interesting. Like, if you look down into one of these jungle canyons, it's so deep, you can't see the bottom. It's so choked with plant life and sulfuric gases, and it's just so bottomless that you start to get into the Underdark. I feel like that could be cool. And that it could be where a lot of like horrific things kind of come up out of. And where you've got dwarves and you've got them digging and mining, it only makes sense that you'd start to have some Underdark stuff going. Mark, you and I are on the same page, brother. Okay, I'm going to go with it. These canyons are so deep that many cross into the deep realms. That's what I call the Underdark, because that's a trademark term. Also, deep and deep, I don't want to use those words in the same sentence, but I'll change it later. These canyons are so deep that many cross into the deep realms and allow not alien monsters, trying to describe like things come up from there and get into the jungle this way. What was this idea from Noble Knight? Maybe there's a civil war amongst the kobolds because some of them have found a single dragon egg. Now they want to raise it while some stick to worshiping the existing dragon. That's kind of cool. Although I would imagine like there's a lot of monstrous spawn from Facepocker that fill this jungle. I would imagine many of these kobolds worship those things, but at the same time worship Facepocker. Like, if you've got a kobold tribe down here, and in the hierarchy of worship, Facepocker's up here, almost none of these kobolds actually go and see Facepocker. They live somewhere else out in the jungle, but they worship his children as almost like princes. Facepocker's the king, kobolds are the commoners, monstrous children and hatchlings and wormlings of Facepocker are the princes in between that they worship. Which horrifying monsters crawl up out of? I like that idea. I am imagining sections where these sulfuric rivers are flowing down this deep canyon, and then they just waterfall down into this bottomless pit. And that's the entrance into the Underdark. That could be cool. Weird little emoji. That's fun, Noble Knight. The dragon egg is just a fossilized piece of dung. That could be good. Okay. Maybe I'll add that detail of sulfur rivers waterfall down bottomless pits into the actual deep realms. Other ideas here. We still need a little bit more about the kobolds, I feel like. Are they a bunch of different tribes? Are they just one tribe? Are they... Do we have some sort of, like, young... So far, our description of Facepocker's spawn has been very broad, very generic. It's just like, there's monstrous hatchlings and spawn of this dragon creature. But maybe do we have his, like, eldest child lives here somewhere? Maybe. I don't love the idea, though, that we're like, yeah, there's these dwarves who ride dinosaurs and they live in this area of the jungle and they're like fierce warriors, but the second BBG of this region lives in the exact same area as them. That feels a little unrealistic to me. No, Samuel, there's music in the background. You're not going crazy. What is it about these kobolds that make them cool? What did we say so far? All we said is that there's just a tribe of kobolds that descend from Facepocker that live here. I don't know what to do to make them unique. Kobolds who worship a black dragon that live at the bottom of jungle canyons where there are sulfur rivers. Some of these canyons and rivers kind of lead into the deep realms. That's not really inspiring me with much yet. Noble Knight says maybe the kobold tribes are divided amongst each of the dragon's children, who are constantly fighting each other over the territory. Yeah. The kobolds use the sulfur to make explodey bits? That's interesting. We did describe in the Retched Quagmire that there was a rare type of porous stone that formed where lava from the ruptured hive, where it flows directly into the sulfuric waters, it hardens into this type of soapstone that I think we'd earlier in our first draft I'd said it's explosive, but I changed it to be more of like if you shatter the stone, it releases clouds of poisonous gas. We could have some kobolds doing some explodey stuff down there. I don't know why I'm just not having a lot of cool ideas for these kobolds. I'm kind of now wondering, like, why do they live so far away from Facepocker? Why don't they just live in the Pocked Mountain? If we kind of take the kobolds and we like, okay, the kobolds aren't here. The kobolds are going to be in the Pocked Mountain. Because that makes a little more sense to me. I have always liked, oh my god, of course I'm blanking on the name. Not troglodytes. Although troglodytes could be cool here too. There's I don't think it's in the... Is it Grimlocks? I think it's a Grimlock. Yeah, the like blind cannibal humanoids. I think that could be cool because we've got these cave dwarves that sort of have a caveman-y feel. But what if down at the bottom of these canyons we have literal cannibalistic cavemen? Like they are literally just kind of going off of Mark's idea, like primitive man, regressed man that lives down here and they worship sleeping giant monsters that are down in the deep realm. Oh, I kind of want to go with that. I really like that. I think I'll delete this one. Or wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Maybe we'll just add 2 more points here. So, cannibalistic primitive humanoids. Grimlocks? I think it's spelled KS? I think so. Live at the bottom of these canyons and worship slumbering titans in the deep realms. That's very Godzilla, Hollow Earth vibes. But I like it. I think it's very, very cool. Kenneth says maybe they're on a mission, and I think he's talking about the kobolds here, but maybe they're on a mission from Facepocker themselves, and something is down there that they could at least, that they're like looking for. Yeah, that's a cool adventure hook. I think that still works though. That if the kobolds are still based out of the Pocked Mountain, then an adventure you could run is you've got kobolds that are being sent to explore these deep realm canyons over in the jungle. Okay, so to get to a D10 list, we need like one more idea. Samuel said, I never really understood what troglodyte is. I mean, the monsters, of course, not my neighbor. The troglodytes that I remember in the monster manual, I think they're the same in the new one, is they're like, I mean, they look a lot like lizard folk, but almost more of like salamandery. They kind of have like wider heads. And I think they even have, I don't think they have gills. They might. But I know like their thing is they stink. They have like a really rancid stench to them. And they're... Yeah, honestly, they are very similar to lizard folk. I guess I couldn't tell you off the top of my head like what makes them different from each other. Besides just their appearance. So if anybody else can help me out with that, that'd be nice. Okay, one more idea. Maybe it's something about... We already talked about the tops of the jungles, where the dinosaurs are at. We know that the bottom of these canyons are so deep, they go into the deep realm, and we've got all kinds of monsters that can come up from there. Do we have... I don't know. I'm just not sure. We've got the vine bridges. There's not really like dungeons that we've come up with yet, but that's fine. We sort of I guess we sort of have dungeons from these dwarven mines, but the dwarves haven't been here. Like, it's not a dwarven kingdom. And the mines, there are not like, they don't have minecart tracks and things like that. These are primitive dwarves. They're like literally down in there with buckets, like pulling out the rock. Now, of course, it's a dwarf mine, so it looks better than a human mine, even with primitive tools. But they're not like these sprawling, huge, many, many mile-long mines that you could just get lost in. They're nothing crazy. What's a crashed derrick? What is that word? Looking that up. Mark. Is that type of ship? Oh, is that another name for Zeppelin? Because when I copy pasted that word, yeah, it's pulling up Zeppelins and like airships and things, or not a hot air balloon, but that sort of vibe. Yeah, crashed. Something like that could be interesting. Noble Knight says maybe the cannibals are doing blood sacrifices to try and use magic, but they don't know what they're doing, so a bunch of unpredictable magic effects are happening. Maybe. Although, I don't think I would do blood rituals just because our Sanguine Mangrove, that's like where the blood stuff's happening. But I mean, we did say that these cannibals are worshipping slumbering titans, so they could be trying to wake them up somehow. Could be cool. A crashed zeppelin. What do we do with that idea? I do think it would be interesting to say, like, yes, there are dinosaurs up on the tops of these spires and these micro jungles, and the dwarves do use these dinosaurs and have a relationship with them, but because they're dwarves and they spend most of their life underground, I like the idea that there's something up on the surface that the dwarves don't really know a lot about. Some sort of ruin, or maybe an airship wreck. Oh, Mark. That's interesting. An airship that was from one of the ziggurat docking bays that we're going to prep here in the next stream or two. It crashed here into the valley below, and it's the Titan. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Yeah, I like that. Maybe we'll call it, like, I don't know about a rogue. I'm liking this idea that it was on like a secret mission. I don't know if that's something that needs to necessarily be as part of this little micro description of it, but a rogue airship from the heavens, heavens, was it S apostrophe? Heavens? Steps? I can't remember the name I finalized, but a rogue airship from the Heaven Steps crashed down into the canyon below and contains relics from before the Great Pilgrimage. Maybe that's something that like or not Vecna, but Facepocker's kobolds have been looking for this for a long time. That's the mission that somebody had mentioned that earlier, that the kobolds are here. Was it Kenneth? Might have been you. Yeah, that the kobolds are on a mission to find something. The thing is a crashed airship with super powerful lost technologies on it. Oh, that's so cool. Okay. Hell yeah, I think that's a D10 list, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yes, it is. All right, what do we have left? Not much. We've got to brainstorm. So we've got to brainstorm the Bombarded Garden, which is this lost city. The Heaven Steps, which are the ziggurats that are actually the tops of an underground airship port. We've got to do the Pocked Mountain, where Facepocker lives. And we have a mystery hex that we still know nothing about, that is next to the Alabaster Keep, or whatever we're going to call it. Maybe that's what we can do here with our last 15 minutes. I think we'll end as close to that 2-hour mark. I mean, we're close to the 2-hour mark, so we can totally end it now. But just so that in a future stream we can kind of come into it ready to go, what ideas do we have for Hex 11? The one that is neighboring, so it's next to, let's see, get that in there for us. It's north of the Tangled Ivory, or the God's Bones, or whatever we're going to call it. It's southwest of the Ivory Citadel. It's southeast of the Retched Quagmire, and it's northeast of the Pocked Mountain. So it's caught between a lot of different things, and it's got the coast, or the sea, the Dead Sea, also borders it. Let's just do one last little random brainstorm here. What do we want that to be? I've had no ideas yet for it. What are some themes we haven't explored? We've got giant bugs with the ruptured hive. We've got plenty of flooded jungly areas. We've got the dinosaurs. We've got the giant man-eating plants over in the Sanguine Mangrove. Oh, a lake. Yeah, we haven't done anything of like a big giant lake. That could be interesting. Gravity-defying terrain, something like that. Yeah, no, well, it's a war. The thing is, like, the factions aren't big enough that they're at war with each other. Post-apocalyptic setting, humanity is barely hanging on. Like, the Ivory Citadel is not, like, a sprawling metropolis. It's like a village of, like, less than 200 people. And it's separated by, several weeks travel, or nearly 2 weeks travel, probably, across this jungle to reach the Violet Port. And that is the only true city on the peninsula, and even that is like a couple thousand people. So there aren't wars going on here anymore, and there never really were. It's not an environment where wars happen. The god rib mentioned earlier could be a thing here. Yeah, that was more of a name reference. I think that was Mark giving a name to these big spires of limestone rock. So far I'm liking this idea of a lake, just because we haven't done that yet. It could be a big acid lake from all the sulfur. Yeah. I almost like this idea that it's like a saltwater lake. Like to the, on this map, you can see that the topmost and the bottom right edge of the hex borders the ocean. Kind of like the idea that like the sea can make its way into here. And so you could introduce some weird, it's almost like it's less of a solid landmass and almost more of kind of a cluster of islands, maybe, that kind of separates the two. What do they call that? There's a name for that, where is it an archipelago? Or the isles? Yeah, it could be some sort of isles. That's like a bunch of little mini islands. A meadow. A meadow's cool, but I don't really think a meadow fits a tropical environment. An archipelago is pretty dang cool. What about it is interesting? I also like this idea of sort of separating the Ivory Knights from the main landmass. They're not like on an island. Well, I guess technically they would be on an island. But I like that they kind of sail down to the Tangled Ivory to do their hunts. But I don't want it to be... I don't think I want it to literally be like a bunch of islands. I still want there to be like some land masses that you can kind of travel there by foot. But it's like a couple narrow ridges of land mass. We haven't done a mountain range. I mean, I guess we sort of did with the Tangled Ivory of like a canyon. But we haven't just done mountains, like a true mountain range. So maybe it's like a bunch of mountains with a bunch of lakes in it. That could be cool. And the lakes could contain... So if it's mountains with lakes, it's up above sea level. But that's fine. I like this too, though, because you've got tumbling waterfalls that can be coming down from the mountains. And it would make sense that these mountains kind of make... If you are to travel south, the mountains kind of go down into the broken, spiry rocks of the Tangled Ivory. So, geographically, I think that makes sense. We could have... Do we want giants? I would imagine Facepocker doesn't like giants, obviously. He's a dragon. But maybe they are like the... But we already have the dwarves who came here to hunt Facepocker, and they're his sort of enemy. So introducing a clan of giants that is also an enemy, and like another civilized group is... I don't want... I kind of want this to be another... Similar to the Retched Quagmire, and I guess the Sanguine Mangrove in a way. I want it to just be truly wild. There's not really people here. Because I also wouldn't like that then we'd have 3 kind of connected hexes. Technically 4. We'd have the Ivory Knights connected, if we had someone living in point 6, like a group there, then we'd go down into these dwarves, and then you could go southwest and you'd be at the trolls. That is a lot of like civilization going on in a world that's supposed to be post-apocalyptic. Hey, see you, Hidden. I'll talk to you tonight. No worries. Ooh, what's a Dwemer giant? I've never heard of that, Mark. Noble Knights, maybe it's not a lake at all, but it's actually like something with water elementals. Oh, it's just one big giant water elemental? Oh, that's interesting. I don't know why, but something about what you were saying just kind of gave me this idea of like, because this peninsula, it's called the Retched Tropics, right? And like a city was smited off the face of the earth here, and this dragon, Facepocker, is poisoning the jungle with all this sulfur. Maybe all of the water here, it's like something about like the gods weep here. Like the tears that the gods of nature weep for this land fall here. Oh, Mark, kind of referencing from Flounder Saddle, we had the lightning god. Maybe this could be a mountainous region where the arcane storms are and it's always raining. Okay, that could fit well with this idea of the gods are weeping. I'm just going to sort of capture this idea, and we'll probably leave it at what it's at so far. But a mountainous range where rains never cease to fall, and it is said they are the tears of this region's ancient gods who weep for its demise, its corruption, its loss. I'm not sure, but we'll just go with demise for now. So there's a bunch of lakes, a bunch of waterfalls, and it's a place where the gods mourn what they have abandoned or what they have lost. Very cool. Very cool. And that puts us at almost right at the 2-hour mark. So that's a good place as any to call it. So next time, Friday, I think we will we'll probably work on this area, this mountain lake area, and I think we'll do the Pocked Mountain. And then we will end our brainstorming, or at least for the map. There's probably some other tables we'll come up with. But then our last set will be Heaven Steps in the Bombarded Garden, that lost civilization where a bunch of ruins are at. That's going to be cool. But, what was this from Rat Compressor? Sulfur and lava combined turn the lava in electric blue in real life. I have an underground sulfur mine called Ladiger's Tears from the lava lake. Oh, some underground lakes could be really cool. Yeah. I didn't know that, though, that it turns it into an electric blue color. That's interesting. But anyways, I think that's it for today. So thank you, everybody who's been hanging out today and attending the stream. Mark, Kenneth, Noble Knight. Who else has been super active in chat? Lord Lost, quite a few messages from you. Appreciate you all just dropping tons of ideas. And for everybody else, Eric, Mo, who else did we have? Rat Compressor, you've been bouncing around in chat. I appreciate you. Samuel Smith was here earlier in the stream, had to bounce a little, I think, pretty early. But I just appreciate you hanging out with me, giving me the time of day. That means a lot. Don't forget, the zine is going to be going up on the Patreon for $3. You just give that 1 month tithing. It'll drop at the end of the month. I've got open seats in some of my campaigns. Sunday's games are the first one that you join is free, so you can kind of get a feel for my style. And I think that's sort of it. If you aren't already following the Patreon for free, you should, because there's morning hobby blog posts that go out basically every weekday. And yeah, that's it. Thank you all so much for your ideas and helping me make this Hexcrawl region a reality. It's so much more fun and easier when it's done with a community, which we are building back up here on stream. So we say these things in y'all's unholy names. Amen. I will see you on Friday. Yo, hey, Mark. Thanks for dropping 5 gift memberships. Let's see who got it. Kevin, Shadow Vortex. I think that was a random one. Roped Goat. I've seen him in chat before. Cal Campu and Samael. Hell yeah. That's awesome. Mark, I really appreciate you dropping that. Oh, I need to add that to my to-do list to share last month's zine with the YouTuber members. I will do that. I will do that today. But Mark, you're the man. We're going to make this membership thing on YouTube cool again, and we'll make it really worth something awesome. So Anywho, we already said it, but once more, we say these things in your unholy names. Amen. Bye-bye. I'll see you on